We've got a real cool guest with us today, and I think that you're going to all get a real kick out of hearing what he has to talk about and what he's going to share with us. Joining us on the Force Geeks podcast is a talented performer who, oddly enough, took his love of creating his own fan-inspired Star Wars costumes to actually working on the sets of Star Wars and donned the C-3PO suit himself to perform as the iconic droid made famous, of course, by Anthony Daniels. He actually he directly benefited from Anthony's tutelage, which served him well, performing the role in various occasions on television, including the Oscars, Letterman, all sorts of cool appearances, but also when he spent some time at the White House. Come on, man. When the Obamas welcomed with Chewbacca to show up to the White House and hang out. You've also seen his work in both seasons of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett as well, just recently, as a matter of fact. It's such a pleasure to welcome Chris Bartlett to the Force Geeks podcast. Chris, man, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you here.
Nate, thank you so much. And Matt, I appreciate you inviting me. I'm really excited to be on the Force Geeks. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
So Matt, how did you start talking to Chris? I'm just curious about this. I know you're our social media guy, so I'm figuring that's where it all started.
Yeah, I follow his work. I love it. We've talked about it on our show in the past, and I just said, if you don't try, I just reached out and he
hey,
responded.
buddy, talk to us. That's all it was.
Just come and join us. And he was next day. It was, let's do it.
Well, I love that it worked out, Chris. Thanks for being a good sport, taking a chance on some guys you've never met before, and just hanging out for an hour with us. I love it.
Of course.
So obviously we're going to talk to you about your experience working in Star Wars, because that's what we do. But I'm also curious about how your fandom started. Not everyone goes from being I'm just going to say it like it is, a fanboy like the rest of us, and actually suiting up to be in Star Wars. How did that all start for you?
I will make it short enough story. It's 1977. I was 7 years old. I was the perfect age, and saw Star Wars, as it was called then.
Yeah.
And have been a fan ever since. So when I got to be about 30, I started building costumes, what we call cosplay now. It was just costuming, we built. So I was, there were kits back then, for a Stormtrooper, but then I built like Tusken Raider and Boba Fett, and then I built Jawas for my kids, and then I try and get them as screen accurate as I can. But then as you troop in these costumes, I really wanted to give guests of whatever event we were at the feeling that this was a real character. So I would really just try out, some acting drills, and would treat it like it was a real character. So that turned into, I built a C-3PO costume over the course of 3 years. As I got
3 years, that is some dedication.
Well, I mean, I wanted to, the sourcing parts was difficult because there was no kit for this. And there were different obscure collectors who had copies of screen used parts and things like that. And I just over the years was collecting parts, and then we had to cut it all up and restore them to be functional. Right. And anyway, so I work with my friend who has a fiberglass shop and didn't know anything about C-3PO, but we worked together. I did all the.
You did by the end of it, right?
Yeah. So I did some 3D models. I gathered a bunch of all my research that I had over the years. Don Bees, who worked as the droid wrangler on the prequels, was super helpful and has become a good friend to help me understand the workings of the actual functional costume that they use in the films. So I tried to make mine as functional as possible like that. So Lucasfilm found out about my work on this costume because I was living in Sacramento at the time, Matt. Yeah. And they invited me to come to Lucasfilm to finish building it there, and then audition. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's the shortened version of the story.
Sure.
But they had contacted me, and when you're building these costumes, Nate, the dream is, wouldn't it be cool if Lucasfilm one day thought that this was worthy of their production in some way?
Yeah.
And but that's just a dream. Of course, I'm just some nerd in Sacramento making a costume. Right. I'm not anyone that anyone knows. So when they did actually call, it was not available. I had sent it off to be chromed, and I was like, oh no, have I missed this window, this amazing chance? And they said, where's it being chromed? I said, oh, it's this shop down in LA. And they said, oh, hang on just a second. And they got on the phone and they said, this is Lucasfilm. You have a C-3PO costume there. We need it done this week instead of 5 weeks from now. And they said, oh, yes, okay, we got it. We'll get it all done. And they got it done. They shipped it to Lucasfilm. I went there and finished building my dream costume at Lucasfilm, which was the dream. That what I thought was the pinnacle of every dream I had ever had. So I built it.
I love that George has that kind of pull because it's directly George calling, right? He's the one who made the call. We'll just believe that was the case.
Sure, yeah. And so then I was they locked me in a room there, and then I finished building it, and then I put it on. And when they put the helmet on me and screwed it in, and the lights came on, I said, my goodness, why hello, I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. And they were like, whoa, you do
the voice too.
Okay, great. Anyway, so the next day we flew to Australia, and Sydney, Australia, and did my audition. And then after that, it's been, was that 2006? So 15 years or whatever.
That is a whirlwind experience right there. Could you believe they're like, hey, we want to take you down to Australia now? What's going through your mind at this point?
Yeah, going through my mind was like, this deal keeps getting better all the time.
You're just riding the wave.
Yeah, but I thought, again, that's the pinnacle of this fandom for me. Yeah. They used me in a thing. Great. I can die happy. But that was not even the base.
Okay. So did you go to Skywalker Ranch then? Is that where you went?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Sorry. So okay. I went to the Presidio.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Okay, so the Presidio is the headquarters. The ranch is where meetings and the archives are.
Have you been there?
I did eventually make it there. I've been there 3 times. Yeah. So
what stands out to you the most about that experience of taking in Skywalker Ranch? Like, is there a thing that just like, oh, wow, that just stands out above all the others?
One, that it is a place that is isolated from any of Hollywood.
Yeah.
It is, it looks like, it looks like a movie, location.
Yeah.
But what stands out is it's surrounded by nature and hills and cattle, and it's amazingly beautiful, rolling green hills and everything. It's just so peaceful there. It's just really a beautiful, peaceful place. Yeah.
Last year I sent a picture out while Nate was actually recording an episode. I made the trek out there. We were going to go see my family in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And I had typed on my GPS. We followed all the way, and you're like way out in the middle of nowhere in beautiful country, like you said. And it got there, and I'm like, took a selfie. I'm like, here's the gate. That's all I got to was the gate. And I'm like,
still like a mile and a half.
I know. I still
into the house.
Yep. And I texted Nate, and he's like, so jealous.
Right. Yeah.
Just the gate was enough for me. I totally fanboyed out over just the gate, but I want to see that fountain someday. The Yoda fountain. I've got to see it someday.
Okay, so that's at the Presidio. So that's in San Francisco.
That is there. Oh, I thought it was at Skywalker Ranch. Okay,
no, that's
and I know there was
a few of them.
There's a couple of statues. Yeah.
So there's one that's totally accessible. Anyone can go visit.
I gotta check that out.
Presidio in San Francisco. So definitely go do that someday. So
I'm glad you're educating me. That's good, so I can be aware and I'm not at the wrong location at that point, because obviously they would immediately give me access into Skywalker Ranch and I'd be like, hey, where's the fountain? Presidio, buddy. That's where you gotta
Chris,
go.
I don't know if you knew, being a Californian as well, in San Anselmo, where they did the parade years ago with Boba Fett. There's also a statue there, I believe, too, because I guess that's where George Lucas lives or something. There's a connection there
at some point, at least. Yep.
I know, right in the middle of town. Like, I have a friend who lives there.
That's awesome.
Take a picture of that.
There's also a statue commemorating George I think if you just Google George Lucas statue, there's a commemorating him in the Marin County, I believe, where there's like a statue for the car movie, American Graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
But it's commemorating George Lucas, so that's pretty neat too.
Another classic film, obviously, and of course that gave us Harrison Ford to start things up with his acting career too.
Right, Carpenter and builder to Harrison Ford.
That story is so funny. It's such a great one, and it speaks to Hollywood of that era as well. And also, I mean, like, your story kind of falls in line with that, with the fact that you were just like a guy who wanted to be in the outfits for a bit, was doing the costuming, and then so how did they hear about your costuming at that point?
So they always would put out requests for 501st Stormtroopers.
Right? Okay, yeah.
So I was invited to the Presidio along with 30 other Stormtroopers one time for Revenge of the Sith media event, and you just meet people. They're super generous and very kind. And so I met someone there, and he invited me. He's like, hey, anytime you want to come to the ranch. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Goes, you can only bring 3 friends. So now I got to limit. I got to find out how I'm going to.
That's hard to do. That's hard to do.
But anyway, so then we just stayed in touch because we were friends. We're both named Chris. And anyway, so I just, every time I'd finish another costume, I was like, hey, check it out. Not for anything other than just like, we were just friends sharing stuff. Yeah. And so he was like, oh, that's cool. And then a couple months later, Lucasfilm contacted me and said, hey, we'd like to use you or use your costume. And so that's how it started. But to answer your question, it all started because I just loved building costumes and trying to make the characters as real as possible, even in my own little, world.
So I got to ask, is there a costume besides C-3PO, since that's what got you into all this? Is there another one that you're particularly proud of, something that you built or made that you just kind of gravitate toward, like, this is, kind of the pinnacle of what I can do and what I've been able to do?
Yeah, I loved Boba Fett, and if you go on my, I just always did ever since I was 10 years old. If you go on my Twitter or go on Instagram, both of them are Chris F. Bartlett. You'll see pictures of the last photo I took of my Boba Fett costume before I sold it. And that was.
How did you part with it? Did you feel a sense of loss when you actually did sell it?
Oh yeah, I didn't want to. It's just I just for reasons I had to, and then but it went to a very good home, a guy who takes very good care of it and troops.
I'm not surprised.
But that was my favorite one, and because Boba, I mean, long before there was a show or anything, he was just when I'd wear it to conventions and stuff. So mysterious, and I would try and do the Jason Wingreen voice, who was the original voice of Boba Fett. So he's my favorite.
Well, let's get back to C-3PO for a second, because obviously there's a connection, and I'm going to just ignore the thought that I can ask you anything you've not been asked before. So I'm going to go to the classics on this stuff. Talk to us about working with Anthony and getting the chance to interact with him and learning from him. What was that experience like? And what is the thing that stands out most from that experience when it came to being C-3PO? What did he tell you?
We've met 3 times. We've worked together several times in that where he might do the voice and I would do the body work. But then also we worked together in person for Disney at one point for a live show. But anyway, what it was like, the very first time I wore the costume after I'd finished it, it wasn't chromed or anything. Lucasfilm hadn't called or anything. I was just a regular guy wearing a costume, was the first time I met him. And it was at the Boston Museum of Science. They were opening. And I was just like, I hope this works. I didn't know if I was going to meet him or anything like that, but I was just going there to try and add to the story of the opening. Like, this is where science meets imagination. It was a Star Wars exhibit, and I just wanted to add to their thing. Okay. And so when I got to meet him, he goes, first of all, I was shocked that he, was spending time with the people who were in costume, but it was super kind. And he said, so let's hear you do the voice, which is like Elvis saying to a random Elvis impersonator, so let me hear you do the voice. So of course I tightened up and got super nervous, and I was like, hey, hello,
I would too.
C3PO, human cyber, really. And he goes, oh, that's pretty good. Let's slow it down a little.
Yeah.
And so from then on, I worked on the voice to try and get as close as I could, and have anyway. So, but Anthony, while we've never had a, let's say, Lucasfilm sanctioned training session,
sure,
we did meet, and he said, all right, Chris, this is how you animate. Every section of the body is separate from all the, there's the arms are separate from the body, the neck is separate from the torso is separate from the legs and the waist. And so anyway, that really helped. And then also when he would talk, he would, tighten up like this and perfect posture and everything. And so that was really special. But when they called me, so tons of other stories, but he was very kind to me, especially when we did a show together where he meets C3PO for the first time. And he gave me a well done. So I
think I saw there's video of that, right? I saw an exchange between the two of you where you're on stage and he's talking to you about it all. And
that was a Disney show that we filmed live, performed live on stage for Disney audiences. And that was, emotionally, that was really beautiful to be able to be part of that special story. But anyway,
I can't even imagine the pressure that you might have felt at that point. I know it's fun and it's cool. It's like, but I understand when you talk about doing the voice for him. I do some voice work, and when I've got to be on cue for someone, and it's I've done a couple things where I would meet a celebrity here and there and getting notes from them at that point. And I'm just like, this is so weird. I can't believe I'm doing this right now. And I'm terrible at it at this moment. And
you always feel like, oh, I'm so terrible at this. I'm not even close to what you're, but that's, you're closer than 99% of people out there who are doing it, and so
it's just such a cool story. It's just such a cool story that all of these events came to be and made this happen for you. What about wearing? Because I've seen Anthony talk about that it can hurt a bit wearing this stuff. How do you get through? Are there points that kind of pinch? What is it that you kind of experience as you're wearing the outfit?
Well, because I provide the costume, it's up to me to make it more comfortable. And so, yes, it pinches, right here where the shoulders meet the torso. But that's, nobody wants to hear that the actor who's playing C3PO is having a hard time. That's the work. All right. That is the work. And
it just motivates the performance.
I'm grateful for it. And I want the character to shine through the costume. I don't want it to feel like, oh, it's just a guy in a costume. So anyway, and since then, Nate, there has been, and you will see sometime in the future, some of the most painful, excruciating days of performing in one of these suits. But it looks so good, and I'm grateful I get to watch it after, because it's a lot more satisfying. The other thing is, in the costume, the little the little black dots in C3PO's eyes are all I can see through. Okay, so
very limited vision.
They're about the size of drinking straws.
Whoa!
So you're looking like this, really small. And if you the face is just far enough from your face that you can see inside, a lot like an Iron Man kind of a situation.
Right.
Tony Stark. If you focus on the inside and the lights that you can see and that you're closed off, you can get very claustrophobic.
Yes.
What I do,
I wouldn't be able to handle it.
And what I do is I focus on what I'm seeing through, and I see faces, and I see smiles, and I see cool environments and everything. I see what's out there. And that's what I'm focusing on. That really helps to make the experience.
So in an experience like what we just saw in chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett, that was you and the droid in the street chase scene there, that area.
Right.
I would imagine trying to hit the mark when you have that limitation of view has got to be difficult.
Yeah, well, you're counting your steps a lot, So
okay,
Robert Rodriguez says, okay, this is where your mark is. We basically put a little rock there, and then I back it up, and then I go, okay, that was like 8 steps. Okay, I got to run this way. But also when you're walking, you also want to be animating correctly, and then I also have to spin around this way and hit the place. So it just takes. That's why we have rehearsals, but ultimately there were scooters there, so I did have to avoid, and Robert Rodriguez did say nobody hit Chris, but it all worked out fine.
Have a good insurance policy on yourself.
Yeah, I do.
That's right. Family's got to be taken care of, that's for sure.
Right,
you've been in every single episode so far that we've seen of Book of Boba Fett. If I'm recalling that right, I know like you brought the Gamorreans down. That was you're the droid that you played there. What else have we seen you in so far?
Also the droid server in Madame Garza's sanctuary.
Yes, the sanctuary.
And then also the traffic droid. So that's so far. That's it.
So far, yes. And that's where we have to leave it. So far. I love that we're there. With this series, we'll go back to the Mandalorian in a moment, because I got to talk to you about that. I know you've been in a bunch of episodes of, multiple seasons, both seasons of the Mandalorian, but this show is different in that it's taking a character that has been so wondered about for so long. It's a beloved character for Boba Fett, with Robert Rodriguez coming on board for this, because he did such a great job with that episode with the Mandalorian, then taking over. Like, clearly this is something he's had a passion for. What was the set like, the experience of being with everyone? Because you're involved in a lot of these episodes, and I'm just curious what it was like. Did you pick up on a sense of pressure? Like, man, the Mandalorian was really successful. I hope we don't, let's not mess this one up because it's a character everyone loves. Was there that kind of pressure, or was it everyone just like, it's all business, we know what we're doing, we've got a plan, and we're going for it? What was that like?
Well, thankfully, I'm not on the level where I have to worry about making the whole show, I mean, it doesn't all rest on a droid running across the street, but
you're with the crew, you're with the rest of the actors and stuff. I mean, all of that. So you've got a pretty good sense of what's going on.
99% of the people working on this show are lifelong Star Wars fans, you know? So it's really great to be just around a bunch of fellow nerds who are just trying to, who want to tell stories that we've all wondered about, and to do a really good job, telling it. Nate, it's we are all want to do a good job because we love Star Wars, but there's a big responsibility to tell Star Wars stories that are relatable and feel like they're part of the galaxy. And so not only are we making it because we want to make it, but we're making it because we all want to make it, and we all want to make it right. So, Star Wars, originally is for, or morality tales for a rising generation. They are not really geared or aimed at 40 to 50-year-olds. They are for 7 to 13-year-olds.
I think that's why we still love it at this age, because it was like the very embodiment of some of the most positive things of childhood. We don't want to let go of it. It's so much fun. Yep.
Chris, one thing I wanted to say is Tamora Morrison and Ming-Na, they're going through their press tour. And one of the biggest things that they always recite is the family, the culture. Obviously there's COVID restrictions, but and I know Nate brought it up with the direction of shooting. Like, can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I don't think people can stress enough, when you go on a work set, it's work. But when you have that family environment,
right. So I, just like you can imagine, Matt, inside, all your emotions want to explode because you're so excited, right? But when you're there, right, there's like I said, a big responsibility to do the work correctly, or at least in a way that is received well and looks good. And so the family that's there is super supportive. I mean, like, Ming, Tamura, even especially the directors like Bryce Dallas Howard and Rick Famuyiwa and Jon Favreau. They're so, like Jon Favreau himself. Okay. I do work with him directly. And one day I was in a costume and I was showing a costume. So I was waiting. We were in rehearsal. That's what it was. And I'm standing there and I see out of the corner of my eye, I see Jon Favreau walking over towards me. And, you try not to freak out because,
because he's money.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. He's money. So he comes over, he just gave me a pat on the back. Yeah. And I was like, hey, John. And he goes, hey, how you doing? And I was like, again, another pinnacle day, in my life of just living the dream of working.
I would totally geek out with that. Yeah. I've been a fan of his for obviously a very long time, from the early days when we were first seeing him, in his younger days, whether it was Rudy or the movie he made, Swingers with Vince Vaughn, all of that. But beyond that, he's a talented filmmaker, and he's got such creativity that has made me an even bigger fan for this ability to tell really fun, enjoying, these stories are just so awesome. And the fact that he's brought Star Wars back to this level, and to bring it in an episodic level for television, and it's been so successful, I would have geeked out at that point. I probably wouldn't be able to get words out of my mouth at that moment.
Well,
so
my first day on set was as the ferryman in Mandalorian season 1, episode 1. It's like the second scene. And everything, Nate, slowed down when I stepped up on that pier, because I was like, my whole life I've been preparing for this moment. And so my whole kind of childhood fandom flashed before me of sitting in cardboard spaceships with knobs that I made and I cut out windows and all this. So anyway, but you really do feel the sense, because it's, you have shorter timelines to get this stuff done, not like a film where you have 6 months or a year and a half.
It's TV.
And so there's not like a super goofy atmosphere. It's not like a bunch of, blooper reels or anything. It's just like, okay, all right, it's a tight schedule. We're trying to get all the right shots done and move on, So anyway, but everyone is just really supportive and helpful and lovely. Bryce Dallas Howard is such a sweet bubble of joy all the time, and so she's really fun to work with.
It's funny because I spent a lot of years in radio and television throughout my career. I've interviewed a lot of folks, and I still have my moments where I fanboy out. It just happens. It's not professional at all in the least, but it still happens. But one thing I've noticed is that typically you can tell, as you watch more interviews with people, you can usually tell whether they're genuinely nice or not. And a lot of folks come through and they can be great actors, but in the interviews, you can tell whether someone what kind of personality they really have. And
I see,
Bryce comes through so great all the time. It doesn't surprise me in the least to hear that she's as nice as she is. I mean, everyone can have a bad day.
But very genuinely, that's how she is all the time at work. Rick Famuyiwa is so cool. He's
not surprised to hear that.
He is just very humble and likes ideas and working together and coming up with ideas and stuff. So that's really fun as a creative person to, John one time said, as a director, I want you to bring ideas. I like it when you're on time, when you're prepared with your stuff and you bring ideas. And that what he means is you're not just an empty shell that's just, or a robot to being told what to do, and I always laugh when I get that prompt on a website that says I am not a robot, and I'm like
but I am.
Anyway, no, but he wants a living being to fill these characters and so anyway, I brought ideas that have been shot down. I brought ideas that have landed, and they've gone on. So in fact, the ferryman, all my lines were in English, so I'd learned them all in English, and I brought a voice and everything. I was like, a kind of a Russian, stereotypical Russian car salesman. I
love it. Now I'm going to watch that again.
Yeah, the speeder is brand I assure you, it's, and John was like, I wonder if we shouldn't use an alien voice. And I was like, yeah, all right. I take the note. It's fine. No. And I was like, yeah,
I mean, yeah, we could do that, John, if that's the way you want to go. I different opinion, but we can do that.
Yeah. You want me to speak Huttese? What? Anyway, they ended up using a sound that was similar to the voice that they used in A New Hope.
Yep.
For that species, which I thought made total sense, because why would he speak English? Anyway.
Well, and Chris, one thing.
Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, I was going to say to piggyback off that though, like, what kind of leeway do they give you when you get when you're a droid or when you're a creature? Like, how much influence do you get as opposed to them saying, "No, Chris, we need you to do exactly this"?
You would be surprised how much they want to collaborate with people who have ideas.
That's awesome.
Not just a person who just wants to, just to be there and get a photo or an autograph or something. A person who is has thoughts and ideas, and especially helps if you're a big Star Wars fan, because you can bring things that would make sense. One example is the let's see, the traffic droid from last night. Perfect example. Traffic droid, originally they wanted what they described as a silver C-3PO. Oh, and I built that costume. And so they wanted a silver one. I said, in the sand and everything, the reflection, it's going to look kind of gold. It's going to look very like C-3PO. People might be confused. Audiences might be confused. I said, no, it's fine. So I went and did a show and tell. I did a screen test in the suit and everything with Robert Rodriguez there on set and everything. And the idea came across was, wow, this looks a lot like C-3PO. So
weird, right?
I said, we got to film in 2 days. We need to figure something out. What if this character had you're getting a scoop because nobody knows this. What if this character had some kind of markings? He's in traffic. What if he had some kind of, like, I don't know, markings that was kind of like, hey, don't hit me kind of a thing. So then what I did was I also switched out the chest to be Death Star droid chest.
Nice.
Which is like the RA7. So it looks familiar, but it's new, right?
Yeah.
That's what all these are supposed to be. They're all supposed to look familiar and feel relatable to Star Wars, but they're new stories. So I did 4 concepts of the markings that we would do on the droid, sent them over. They approved one, and that's the one that's in. And so then I had to paint that one overnight to have those markings. And so then we shot it and weathered it up a little bit more. And
yeah, it definitely did look weathered. Yeah, nice job on that. And I would say that too, that's very I think very George Lucas line of thinking with the markings on the droid, because I can see that in like the prequels, just that way of thinking. That makes a lot of sense to me, just because it's functional and that would make sense. Yeah. Awesome.
I used inspiration from New York traffic cops, where they have the white gloves, And so if you can freeze frame it, the hand plates are white and the forearms have white, and with some deltas on them, just like the face. So anyway, that was the inspiration. But yeah, again, they're super open to competent people who understand this and have ideas and can do it. So,
as our friends in the UK would say, brilliant. It was a stroke of genius right there. Yeah. You're a dad, right? You're a dad.
Yeah, I have 4 kids.
Okay, so I'm curious about this. For you, getting a chance to have this happen, do the kids think it's cool that Dad's in Star Wars? How much do they care about what you're doing?
I haven't asked my kids, do you think it's cool that I'm in Star Wars? I don't know.
We want that scoop next.
My kids, my younger boys are teenagers. They're not on social media, so I don't, I can't read what they type about it. My girls are, but they don't typically post about Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they do, but I've just been a Star Wars fan, like, their whole lives. So I think they're just like, oh, this is just Dad. This is just, Star Wars is just part of him. So,
but they're friends. Come on, they gotta think that's
now their friends are a different story. Yeah, I have. Yeah, their friends are like, hey, could you plan something for me? And I'm like, would you, son, like something signed? And he's like, I don't know, I'll think about it. And I'm like, okay, fine.
That's all right.
So, yes, yeah, but they did love it when I was building them costumes and they were little kids. My oldest Paige, she always wanted to be the bad girls in Star Wars. So like Zam Wessel, Ara Singh, Ula, the dancer, and then the Jawas, who are all bad girls. So anyway, so and then my boys, I'd made a little Luke Skywalker, and they did the Jawas too. So yeah,
that's fantastic.
They love being the characters, so that's
how could you not? How could you not? Especially when they've got someone who knows a thing or two about costuming, right? The cosplay king right there. So I'll respect if you don't want to answer this, but have you ever slipped up and let a cat out of the bag when it came to something involving Star Wars that you were with? Because I can't imagine what it was like to find out that you're going to be in The Mandalorian and then have to hold that secret for so long. So I'm curious about that.
Have I ever slipped up? I guess I'd have to wait for Lucasfilm to contact me if I have, but no, I don't think so. I mean, of course I ran home I phoned up my parents and said, hey, I'm in Star Wars, but they're not like, social media people. I think I share everything with my wife who is a former Lucasfilm employee, and of course, so our whole lives are on NDA. So but I have a very small circle.
You keep it in the family
that I trust. I've never.
I respect it. Yeah, I think I could keep the secret, but it would be torture. Absolute torture.
Okay, so all the stuff you're seeing. All the stuff that you're seeing right now, we filmed, a year, 8 months, a year ago. So, I mean, I think right at the very beginning when I got the first episode on Mandalorian, I was like, oh man, it's going to be so long till I can, see this on a screen. But then since then, it's kind of like, I got stuff I've done that no one knows about, that will not know about for a while, and this coming up right now is like, oh man, this is like a while ago when I did this. It's fun to finally see it, but I kind of had moved on to other stuff. So I don't know, you get used to it, and there's there's no benefit in blowing the secret if you want to keep working. Some people have. I've seen people do it, and then you never see them on set again, and it's too bad. But if you want to keep working, just be someone you can rely on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very well acquainted with the NDA world. It's a fact of life, and of course, as protective as Disney, Lucasfilm, Marvel, all of those things. You live by the NDA, you die by the NDA. It's just the way it works. So another thing I'm curious about is that I think in the fandom, there's been a big gravitation toward John and Dave as being some of the great creatives that they are. But I think it also really resonates with a lot of people because you see this team between them, and you speak about collaboration. That makes complete sense to hear that they would be respectful of those who have an idea about their characters and bring ideas in the collaboration process, because that makes for much better storytelling. What have you observed from them and how they work with each other that you think contributes to why the fandom has really gravitated toward those two guys?
Great question. Well, in the mornings, we meet with John, and we, without giving too much away, he comes in with, maybe he's written the episode, maybe he's directing the episode, but he always has the high level ideas. Like, what story are we telling here? We may be talking about Mando and rescuing the baby, and the baby's on a speeder bike or something, But the way John frames it is for parents who have kids and want their kid to grow up and be happy, but kind of don't want them to grow up and be an adult. You know what I'm saying? He said, he'll say stuff like that, like, look at this like that, And everyone gets it immediately. Everyone can relate to what he's talking about, whether you have kids or you were a kid and have parents, whatever, And so this is all about, not only is it a family atmosphere on set, but this is also, Star Wars is about family. It's also about giving you a good feeling And even if the middle act is a darker act, like Empire was in the original trilogy, it all ends up with a good feeling, and there'll be also little good feelings throughout there. So that's what, you know, Dave has said that. And what's fun is when we are standing around, they just want to talk about Star Wars. You know, they're just like, oh, you know, X-wing helmet designs, or, you know, just talk, not, and it's not like, hey, we got to come up with a decision, you know, we got to figure this out, whatever. It's like, what would, like I said, you know, what kind of language would this creature speak? Or, you know, what color would this droid be? Or, you know, those kind of things.
I feel like when we see the behind the scenes stuff from like Disney Gallery, that sort of thing, I get the sense that like when these guys are together with the crew and everyone, they're like, it'd be kind of cool to see something like this, don't you think? Like, I feel like that's the kind of conversations that are coming into play. Like, you know, it'd be kind of cool if we could do this with the character. That
happens so much. Yeah. Like, hey, it'd be cool if this, you know. But it all has to kind of it has to be part of telling the story that John has on a high level, you know. And if it all makes sense in there, there's lots of room for trying different things within that kind of dome.
That's a real talent. If you can frame something like that, people who can frame things in a way that everyone gets it, comprehends it. That is such a true talent when you're presenting ideas that could be very high level or even just something simple. When you can get that kind of comprehension from the entire room, that's part of the reason why John is so successful and is what he is.
And while he approaches everything from a high level, he will also get down to details, like as Zero. When I played Q90 in The Mandalorian, when they said, all right, Chris, why don't you go get familiar with the cockpit of the Razor Crest? I was like,
you sat in the helm of the Razor Crest.
I flew the ship in space, Nate. I don't know if you saw the episode, but so I went in, I'm flipping all the switches, the buttons are all working, the lights are lighting up and everything. And
okay, but be real. How hard is it not to immediately want to start fiddling with things? Let's be real.
No, I had free reign to get familiar with the cockpit. So I covered everything. Okay. But anyway, so I'm, you know, pretending to fly, I'm shooting the things like this and nobody's around, but I'm getting used to, okay, I got this. I know.
Don't break it.
Do all this right. And then John comes in and goes, and he goes, all right, Chris, so because you're a droid, you're going to be flying this with a scomp link. So you'll jack into the port on the side, and that's how you be flying the ship. So I'm like, okay,
that's not what I was prepared for.
Right. So I just had this little, you know, scomp link. It's actually too big to fit into the thing, you know, that you see when R2 puts the scomp link and unlocks the door. Yeah, that's what it was. But the cameras are always rolling, okay, in between whatever. And so I did my thing. Okay, I did what they asked. And then I was also flipping switches over here. So I was like, you know, yes, I'm driving the ship over here, but I'm flipping switches. You know, there's other things that need to be done. There's so many switches, you know. So so that made it into the episode where you'll see me turning and doing things like this.
I'm gonna go back and watch it again just to see it.
Yeah.
I got.
And that was just because one, I really wanted to do all the things, but also Deborah Chow was like, "Oh, give me some more of that. Give me some Zero energy." Yeah. And I was like, I know exactly what you mean. Zero energy.
I know what Zero energy is. Yeah, for sure.
And Chris, can you also touch on just the volume? I mean, we hear from every actor. I mean, we've talked with. Yeah. And you know, you mentioned your scene, your opener and the Mando, but just the comprehension of it.
Yeah. Well, they probably explained it. It is a circle of screens. You're standing on a floor that has all practical scenery, that practical props and things like that. And then the scene, if you walk up, you know, really close to it, you know, it looks, you can see why it's blurred a little bit in the background, right? But it's perfect. And then also the ceiling also is screens. So when you're in it, it makes it so much easier as an actor to pretend, you know, because that's all we're doing. We're playing pretend, right? And I can't imagine how hard it would have been to be surrounded by green. Yeah, you know,
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, he's talked a lot about it.
Right, and to be in the volume where you're in an environment, you're in a ship, like mentioning Zero. When I was flying the ship, they parked the cockpit in the middle of the volume, and then they just had space all around. So, when I'm saying jumping to hyperspace now, all of a sudden, all the stars.
That was what I wanted to know about. Does it look like it to you at that point with the volume?
Well, I mean, it looks exactly, Nate, like your background. I mean, I'm sitting in there. I'm looking out, and the stars are far enough away and they're moving a little bit. It looks so real. There's that. There's like, if I'm in a, I don't know, trying to think of what we've seen on screen.
Yeah, what can you share? Be careful. You've never
other environments. We'll say other environments. Okay, like the hangar, hangar scene when Zero meets the crew for the first time. I'm walking down the ramp from the Razor Crest. That was also in the volume because it was this massive hangar with people welding and ropes or cords and hoses and all this stuff and struts and built bridges and everything. But we're surrounded by real airplane engines and parts and stuff that were all around us, barrels and everything and garbage and stuff. And then just on the outside of that is the volume. But you could stand in there and sometimes it looks like you're looking way further away than when you just walk up to the wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, it's right there. It can be very disorienting, especially when the buildings, if you're buildings and then they curve up onto the ceiling. It looks, and then when it all starts moving, that's so I was in nope.
Can't share that one.
It was awesome. Well, you could in episode or season 2 of Mandalorian when they were in the Boba Fett ship, and I'll just say it's Slave One, and then it turns, that was all.
That was such an incredible sequence. I saw them talk about that. That's so cool to see that. Yeah, but I would imagine it could be kind of disorienting with something like that going on.
Yeah, if you have a whole room full of people, and now for some reason everything is moving, on the walls up like this, it really feels like we're all moving, Yeah.
And we hear a lot about the looks, like you've been describing, but how about the audio? Like, is the quality, like, is there an echo effect? Like, how is everything within the volume?
There's boom mics. So I'm typically mic'd in my helmet. So I'm not, we're not hearing sound effects or anything.
Sure.
There might be music, sometimes they play music like to,
I didn't expect that.
Bring a mood, but that's not all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so as far as sound, it's really just visuals that
because no one's ever mentioned that, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah, it's an important
we have
part of the
sounds
story
in our minds. Like I got sounds going on, like when I was as Zero, when I had the shootout in Navarro when we were trying to take down Mando, remember in the Sin, the episode The Sin.
Yeah.
I'm in my mind, in my head, I'm in my helmet, I'm going like, like this. And I, that was something, me as a kid, I was running around the streets with, we'd make PVC pipe weapons and me and my friends would, run and hide.
I know that game all too well.
That, and all of a sudden now I have a real shootout in Star Wars. I'm like, I wish I could bring all my friends from my childhood to this moment. So
and those episodes with Bill Burr were really fun too. I love that Bill Burr was not really a Star Wars person. There's some folks that come on board who are not. I get it, but he brought a really cool. Yeah, exactly. Werner. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions I have about that guy and his technique and just his committing to it, because so much was made about him committing to the baby.
Practical baby.
Yeah. So I'd love to know with Burr, like, what was it like working with him on? I've never seen him in a sci-fi property before. He's one of my favorite comedians, and he's just hilarious. But what is he like when he's committing to like the drama and the action of what's going on? How's he dealing with everything?
Yeah, I expected him to be like, goofy as a comedian all the time. He was not. He was very serious about his role.
I thought as much. Yeah.
As Mayfeld. And he was really like low key. I could tell that he just really cared about doing a good job for John, and for audiences.
Man, he did.
And what an amazing job he did. How that character came back in season 2. Oh, I love that episode because of him. It
came full circle at that point. It was amazing. And because of that episode, he's one of my all-time favorite characters to appear on the show, just because that was a bro down moment, that was really cool. So I loved that there was this connection, and that it just went beyond great storytelling for me. It was so well acted from everyone involved with it. You could tell that I think I was watching, because sometimes you can see some extras who are kind of like, they're doing their thing, but not everyone really is locked into the moment. With some of those scenes are going on, everyone, their eyes could not leave them.
Yeah, exactly. Let me talk just briefly about that as a performer. So I've been on sets with lots of background people, and a lot of them make a living as background actors, right? And so sometimes people, they're taking a break from college or whatever, or their day job or whatever, and they're just, I
had a buddy who did it.
And but on set they're just talking about, I'm not saying all background people, I'm saying some people will just like talking about their sore leg or their dog or their homework or whatever, and it makes for, especially when there's a lot, it makes for a really noisy atmosphere. And I just had this feeling to just over the years focus on what the director is doing, even if my character happens to be with a crowd, because later it's going, I'm establishing that I'm in that area, and then you'll see me in a featured shot. I try to focus, no matter how far away, what the director is doing. And I have found, Nate, that every time I do that, because what I'm trying to do is see, what can I do with my character in this small, I'm a droid running across the street, or I'm a server droid taking orders or whatever. What can I do with my character to help this scene feel bigger? And I don't mean make me feel bigger. I mean,
the scene.
What can I do to add to this atmosphere to make it feel like Star Wars, right? And I have found that when I do that, the director inevitably will, every once in a while, will look up and is looking for inspiration. I don't mean looking for people. They're looking for a solution to some kind of design problem or a story problem. And if you're paying attention, that your eyes will lock. And it's really a special moment, because then, so one happened on a show where this was happening a lot. It was really noisy, and they kept having to say, shh, please be quiet. And I said to this young kid that was an actor, sitting there, I was like, what's your character? And he goes, I don't know. And I was like, well, let's figure out a story. Because I knew what my character was, because it was an established character. And he goes, maybe this guy did me wrong, and now I'm coming to you.
Create a backstory.
I was like, boom, that's our story. Okay.
Yeah.
So I said, you listen to all this noise back here? Let's just look at the director. Okay. I can't say who the director is, but
sure.
Let's just pay attention. And I told him what I just told you. Not 2 minutes later, the director came over and said, Chris, and what's your name? And the kid, come with us. And because we were focused on what the main thing was happening, okay, brought us right into the shot to be featured in the shot. And I don't say that to say, hey, look, we got in the shot. The point was, we just want the story to be, or what we're doing to help the story be better, or to fill it out. It just ended up that because we were paying attention, they saw some solution to their problem in that. And I've had that happen many times. So I just say to any actors who, if you ever get in a background situation, don't get caught up in all the people that just want to talk about mundane stuff. Like think how special this is. You are on a Star Wars production. This could turn into something big. It could just be your special moment, but make this moment and take this in for what it is. It is a dream come true for some people.
Yeah.
And just do your best to make it a bigger, a good story. That's all, with your character.
Let's talk about directors for a moment, because that is something that has been a lot of fun to watch, because the directors do set the tone for what's going on, and it can make or break a set. You can have great talented performers, but if the director isn't really doing their job, it's all wasted. Really great directors are working with these projects. And I want to go back again to John and Dave for a moment. What do you see from them when it comes to, there seems to be a reverence that they have when it comes to George Lucas's original ideals and thoughts on Star Wars. Do you see that come out on a fairly consistent basis, where it's kind of like, we're honoring George with this sort of thing? Have you witnessed that, seen that?
100%. Not only in the stories that are being told, but also the characters, the creatures that they choose, the importance of the look of those characters within that environment in Star Wars. George's world is always a little grimy and weathered, beat up.
So what made it so realistic, though, is that it was lived in. It was a lived-in universe.
Right. It's relatable. It feels like, oh yeah, that's how that would be. It wouldn't be, a shiny droid in the desert. He'd be all dirty. So, they really pay attention to even small details of how they will feel like, more like Star Wars. Different directors have different ideas.
Yeah.
So, everyone approaches it with their own style or their own choices. But, Dave and John, as you asked about them, they approach this as like, what would I want to see in Star Wars, and so that comes down to like props, costumes, creatures, the story, and the environments. I mean, the environments in the Book of Boba Fett are so cool. The Tusken encampment, the Bantha scenes going across the desert, and even the city of Mos Espa, is really beautiful. So there's a great reverence for Star Wars on set.
Yeah, I've just been so thrilled by all of the directors involved with these projects. And one of them that kind of stands out to me is Deborah Chow, obviously, because there's a lot of eyes on the upcoming Kenobi project. And I'm going to frame this in a way that shouldn't get you into trouble. But seeing what you've seen from Deborah on the sets of The Mandalorian, from the episodes that she's directed, what do you think people can kind of get in their minds that she brings to the table that really helps tell the story for Kenobi? Not giving away the details there, but what do you think it is that delivers for Kenobi, this upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series?
Well, think about what she directed in Mandalorian. Like she directed scenes of the prisoner, the one where I was as Zero, so I worked directly with her there. And think about angles of those shots, lightings of those shots, how the energy of the characters comes across. She's 100% about that. She has a real reverence for Star Wars as well. And she is, to work with her, she really, really knows what she wants. So
Misty said the same thing. Yeah.
She is very clear with strong characters. So nobody's there. We don't have characters on her in her directions that are like, we just need to fill this area, whatever. They all are important. They all
serve a purpose.
Have to be, and they have to, what's that?
Serve a purpose.
Yeah, serve a purpose. They have a story. That's why I'm telling you, every character has to have a story, whether, it has to come across that way.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see just a stormtrooper just a guy in a suit,
No.
So anyway, that's what it's like to work with her. I'm confident that we will see that, because I don't know how many episodes she does. Maybe she does all of them in Kenobi. I'm confident that all of those will be very strong characters in dramatic environments that will feel very reverent to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Nice. Nice. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate that. We have to think that you've obviously done a fairly good job of endearing yourself to Lucasfilm, because you continue to pop up in multiple episodes of both seasons of The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. Are you allowed to say if you're working on any other Lucasfilm or Star Wars projects at this time? And it's okay if you don't.
That's a great question, Nate. As lifelong Star Wars fans, we hate spoilers, right? We don't want to, because spoiling things is really, a disappointment when we when we see it. It's like a magic trick, and then knowing the magic, how it works. It's like, oh, it's not really magic, So I will just say that I'm really grateful to, one, be a lifelong Star Wars fan, and to work with such amazing people on these productions, because they do feel very cinematic, when you're doing them and when we watch them. So I'm just really grateful to be able to work with these directors and this crew.
Hands down, the best sidestep of the question ever, Chris. Great answer. I love it. It was good, and it was reverent. It was. I love it.
Give him an Oscar.
So I got to tell you, man, it seems like Easter eggs are going gangbusters in the Book of Boba Fett. It seems like it's the book of Easter eggs for me. Is that something you're aware of when you're on set for the Book of Boba Fett?
Yes.
Yeah. You're a Star Wars fan, so you get the Easter eggs immediately.
Yes. Yeah. There's Easter eggs that pop up that I didn't even know were done, because everything is kept very, very, what would you say, focused on the thing that you are doing.
Yeah.
So if I'm a droid running across the street, I don't know. I mean, I hear things, but I don't know what else is going on in the Rancor pit or anything like that. So but as an artist who's works on some of these costumes, I like to put in my own Easter eggs as well, or do things that are. So I don't want to reveal those, but let's see. I'm trying to think of something.
Well, you kind of revealed one of the Easter eggs a little while ago when you're talking about the traffic droid that you brought in, the Death Star droid, the RA-7.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Those are things that you've done there that we've seen this before, but then there's the whole, storyline that we're getting a Rancor, from chapter 3. But then there's other things that stand out, throughout the series. So I don't want to stop you from whatever you were thinking of, but I know that I can tell you're thinking along the lines of those Easter eggs as well with what you're doing with your suits.
What's cool about the stories that we're telling is there's something, you don't have to know all the Easter eggs to enjoy the shows. You don't have to even have seen all of the Star Wars movies to enjoy the show or the stories. And so the Easter eggs are just one extra thing for people who do know all those stories and do know whatever insignia was on X-Wing, pilot, red leader, whatever, the kind of things. So Dave and John are putting little presents in there. We call them Easter eggs, but they are little gifts and little hugs to Star Wars fans that are in every episode. And even in the Tusken episode episode 2, where there was a shot that had kind of it looked like a ship's hull. There was a Tusken in the foreground. It was where the carpenter Tusken was working.
Yeah,
that is directly an homage to Ralph McQuarrie's concept of the Tusken Raiders.
I've read that.
So, they know that. They know that stuff. They're so versed in all of it, in all the history of Star Wars, that to put all that stuff in there, just so even droid designs and things like that are meant to be a little gift, a little hug to Star Wars fans.
I get so geeked for that stuff too, especially with the McQuarrie references. And I know that, during Dave's time on the various animated properties that he was working on, he was a big fan of McQuarrie's art. It came into play for the look of even Vader, when you're looking at Vader when he appears in Rebels and all that. So it's fun to see those, and we see them in the shows as well, and it's so much fun. Yeah,
definitely. You remember the character I played, Zero? There was a little mix-up, a little confusion on set where they were saying, "Are you bringing the RA-7 droid?" And I was like, yeah, but I'm bringing that next week, not this week.
Right.
And they're like, no, you're supposed to be RA7 this week. And I said, I'm 0 this week. I'm RA7 next week. And they said, no, you're supposed to be RA7 today. And I'm like, well, I don't have a costume. Nobody told me that. And no, I get on set. They had been calling 0 RA7. And I was like, why? When you have an RA7 also, that's so confusing. They said, oh, RA7, sorry, 0 is a new model of Death Star droid. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What a cool, and the Death Star droid is the RA7 droid. So he's 0 is a newer model of the old Death Star droid. So anyway, it was a little confusing, but it was such a cool, that was like for me an Easter egg.
No, I don't have that here. No.
I'm playing 2 RA7 droids. I'm playing the 1957 one, and I'm playing the 2021. Anyway,
that's cool. So cool. I love how it all comes together.
And I was gonna say, I must think it's hard to balance the two. That was kind of one of my questions. Is you had 2 going simultaneously, like trying to remember backstories, lines, all that for this, and then you had to switch to that. Like,
yeah. I mean, one was a bartender, one was a mercenary. I just look at them as 2 totally different characters,
slightly different motivations.
Yes, slightly right. Good motivations, bad motivations. I don't know. Yeah. It all depends on who's paying you, right?
Exactly.
No, yeah, it's that's how I approach all the characters. Is even droids, if I play multiple droids, I try to make them all different because C-3PO is different than 0.
Yeah.
They're machines, but you don't want to play them all the same. You want them all to feel like their own, personality.
Chris, you have your own action figure.
I sure do.
Yeah, there it is right there.
I take mine out of the package because I play with them. So.
I love it.
Look at this pose.
I have some that are out of the package, and I have a lot that are in packages.
Yeah. Yes, right. I can't believe it. I'm so when the Funko came out.
Yep. Funko.
I saw that the other day.
Not a fan of 0. Anyway, when this came out, I was like, oh man, I have a figure. That's cool.
Yeah.
But a tiny twinge inside was like, it's not really an action figure, right? I mean, his head bobbles, but it's not an action figure. Yeah. I grew up with action figures.
Right.
So when Hasbro announced it, I didn't even know it. Somebody sent me the link. They were like, this guy's coming. And I was like, okay, all right. So, I did stand to be scanned in the costume.
I was going to ask. Yep.
So they got every detail on the ammo belts and the weapon and everything. Also, you recognize the weapon. I was very surprised. I thought, did 0 steal Boba Fett?
That's Boba's gun.
What's the deal? Yeah. But anyway, no, I was so excited. And now you see all these cool I don't know, they're unboxings and stuff like of your character, but also there's a guy who did a whole bunch of poses and stuff. And I'm like, oh, so
the photography that fans do with these is just so phenomenal.
So
it's so much fun.
So I started drawing my own
takes
on 0. Like I was just doing a bunch of little graphic. I'm a graphic artist. That's my background.
You gotta turn those into NFTs, man.
What are NFTs again? I don't know. But anyway, so and then I was just doing Mandalorian stuff. So but anyway,
that's great. That's great.
I love the art of Star Wars, and to have my own figure is just blows my 7-year-old mind. I'm so happy.
How many did you give away for Christmas this year?
Well, I kind of had to find them all. First of all, you can only buy
hard
numbers, so I'm like, I'm like on GameStop and Amazon.
As a collector, I know the drill, man. I'm just like, as soon as they come out, you're just online trying to get them. Yeah.
So I've been able to get a few of them and give them as gifts.
That's really awesome.
That's cool.
I love it.
You have a background in the gaming world too, man. Talk a little bit about what you do in that side of things.
Yeah, so my background professionally outside of acting was as a graphic designer, and that turned into being a UI artist, and that turned into being a UX director for video games. So I worked on Gears of War since the beginning, the first 4 games of that. I worked on Fortnite. I worked on the new Tomb Raider reboots, all of them as a UI UX lead. And then now I just recently worked on Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, and Warzone as the UX director. So UX is user experience. That is how the game communicates to the player and what the player experiences while they're playing. Do you ever play a game and you're like, a new game, and you really want to play it, and then you're like, this is so frustrating, I can't understand it, and then you rage quit, like put it away. Okay, you had a bad experience, right? And so what we want is players to have a good experience, and this totally translates to acting as well. I want audiences and players to have a good feeling when they're done. So when they're done watching the show or playing the game. So a lot of times we'll do things in games that will, even if you are defeated, it still feels like you had a cool experience. Like, I died, but man, that was really cool. I want to play it again. And you jump in and start playing again.
You can't wait to start again.
Right. One of the jobs that I had to do was Call of Duty was, it had a really dedicated and hardcore audience. Call of Duty was a first-person shooter. And one of my jobs was we needed to broaden our audience to include casual players. So there's really specific things that as the director of user experience that I would do to make, how would you make a really hardcore game more inviting for players that are just coming into this, so there's very specific things that we did and to level the playing field. And for audiences of, say, The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and others, like I said, there are people who have, like us, who have been Star Wars fans forever, who have great expectations. We also know all the history. And then there's people that are coming into Star Wars right now that are like, I never really got into Star Wars, but I love The Mandalorian. I hear that a lot. Or I liked Star Wars for a while and then kind of fell away. And now I'm back because of The Mandalorian. Okay. That is one of the two most common comments I hear. And that is because the stories are relatable and not so, they're not trying so hard to tie up loose ends with previous stories. They're telling stories that people understand and relate to because they're new stories. They do have some tie back for people that are hardcore fans, but that's just a bonus. We want to tell stories that are standalone as well.
It all does tie together. And I love that you have this approach to everything because it really makes for great storytelling, whether it's in a video game or it's on screen. It's so much fun to see that from you, and it ties together. I recently took the leap and bought an Oculus Quest. I just love the whole concept of VR. And it's so much fun to see how great storytelling can come into play with a gaming experience. And that user experience is important because no one's going to stick around if it's not something they feel like they're enjoying. So that's awesome to see.
If you get a headache after 10 minutes playing, that's a bad experience.
That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing for sure. Well, Chris, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, and we tend to have a lot of fun with. We base most of what we talk about on the confirmed things, the properties from Lucasfilm when they confirm something. There's a lot of shows and a lot of outlets out there that like to just come up with something and throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. How is it being on the side of knowing whether these things are right or wrong? How much fun do you want to have at their expense when you see these sorts of things? They're just grandiose rumors that have no basis
my favorite is watching. I don't do this a lot because I just get tired of it, but watching people on YouTube pontificate, speculate, hypothesize as if it's gospel. As if they know, they talk to somebody. There's a certain
few, especially,
and they've they're acting like they are the actual authority, and they have this is totally true, I at first when I first started on the shows, I wanted to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. You have zero idea.
It's keyboard cowboy time, and I'm going to let you have it.
Right, exactly. But I didn't, I restrained myself because, it would inevitably get back, like, hey,
yeah,
that's on the show. Yeah. Hey, he's saying stuff. What's he saying? Is he confirming?
Yeah.
You can't win, because if someone asks you a question, they're like, no comment. Like, that's an assurance. That's he's so. Or you can say something that is a misdirection, but then you'll be quoted, and then that'll run like wildfire. It's just, there's no, so all you can do is just wait.
Yeah.
You just know that what we've been working on is so satisfying, not only as storytellers, but also as Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very exciting future.
Yeah. With that, as we finish out the Book of Boba Fett, we're getting close to that halfway point with this next episode. That'll be the middle point. Without putting yourself in danger of breaking the NDAs, do you feel like there's some big surprises in store for fans at this point?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Fans have no idea what's coming.
Yeah. I love it. That's all I need. That's all I need. I'm just excited for the future. Can't wait to talk to you about it after it does come out. Yeah.
You'll be very satisfied. Like I said, in the future, your future will be so enjoyable.
Fantastic.
And I say that as a lifelong Star Wars fan, and as a person who wants this stuff to look good and has seen it. So I'm just telling you, you'll be satisfied. And yes, tons of surprises that will be like, wow, Chris told me that was coming.
Can we just talk about for a second that there are Hutts in the show? I just love that we're getting Hutts again. I don't care that they're computer generated. They look great, and I just love the storyline that's going on with them. It's so satisfying to me.
The twins, they, of course, they were only cardboard on set, but as Ming has said. But yeah, I love hearing their voices. They sound cool. Plus they're so gross, especially how uncomfortably familiar the cousins are with leaning on each other and stuff.
Absolutely.
We also brought up the little the hamster or whatever it is.
Right. What was he doing? Was he eat? I kept thinking
he was wiping his face.
Wiping his face so that, I kept thinking he was going to eat it. I was like, oh,
me too. Yeah. Because we saw Jabba do that, a little scurrying thing, but it's so much fun. I love all that we've seen so far. I was having problems in the beginning with how much backstory we were getting for Boba, because I'm more interested in the timeline. Yeah, I've made no secret about it, but I still love what we're getting, and I've enjoyed that. But I'm so excited with this third episode. As we head to the fourth one now, but the third episode, we had a lot more of what's happening current timeline, because I've just been curious. What's Boba up against? I can't wait for this showdown that's inevitably coming. That's going to be just epic. So I'm excited for that.
Well, we're excited to see the Pikes, because obviously with D, we we're very happy for that.
Okay. Too. Details.
Yeah.
Jedi Master.
Fantastic. He's
my
awesome.
Jedi Master of creature performers. He and I are brothers. He is so lovely, and I just can't.
He's just a good dude.
He is a good dude, and he's also almost like I said, like a Jedi Master. Like he approaches this stuff from a high level of he taught me about what it's like or how to effectively be in the world. And how to be on set and in the world. I also learned that learn more from additional things from Werner Herzog. But with D,
what did he tell you?
What's that?
What did Werner tell you?
Well, first of all, D, he came out to LA. We hung out. We went all over town. We went out to Vasquez Rocks and had this Jedi training up at the top of go look up Vasquez Rocks, up at the top of the rocks. He's so special to me. I really appreciate him. And so, yes, being able to see the Pikes where he played
the first one ever,
Tulsite
live action,
right? The live action Pike running the spice mines of Kessel in Solo. So anyway, it was really cool to see all of them come out of the cruiser. Anyway, you asked what Werner Herzog. Werner Herzog has admitted, he wasn't a Star Wars.
Yep.
He hadn't watched the shows or whatever.
He made it known.
Yeah. One of my earliest days on set, I found myself standing next to him. We were just watching a scene because we were waiting for our part. And so inside, like I was talking about Nate before, I was all so bubbling up, excited, but trying to keep it cool. And so a little bit squeaked out. I was like, isn't this exciting? And he goes, he says, this is serious work. We are creating characters that would not otherwise exist, breathing life into these characters. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's what I meant to say.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah. No, but, it was this masterclass in like 30 seconds of what we're doing as storytellers, as actors, and what we're doing not only on set, but in this world of Star Wars. And so it was so humbling to be with this venerated actor and director that has done so much, both in front of the camera and behind. And to have him say that, it wasn't like offensive or anything at all. And I make that face just because it's kind of like what I was looking at. Yeah. But he really was saying it in a maybe a slightly corrective way. But sure. I totally took it like I want another hour of this, But he said so much in so short amount of time that it was all I needed.
It's legendary. That's awesome. Chris, we've taken up way more of your time than I intended. Thank you so much for joining us on this. And I want to play a game. We play 7 questions with our guests at this point. So it's just, I'm going to hit you up with these questions and give me your first reaction, what you can think of. Doesn't matter what it is, just go for it. So you know how this works. It'll be good. Okay. These are all Star Wars questions. So let's hit them out. So you're hanging out in a space cantina. Yeah. Who are you?
I'm the bartender.
Yeah, there we go. What's your lightsaber color?
Red.
Really? Ooh. That was unexpected. There's a dark side to this one. Okay. Do you have a favorite quote, and what is it?
Do I have a favorite quote? You must do what you feel is right, of course.
And you're a pilot. What's your starship? I mean, we might know the answer, but I want to see what you say.
What's my starship? I mean,
what are you flying?
I'm flying the Razor Crest. I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of other ones that I like. I mean,
go back to when you were a kid. You saw the movies. What's the one you would pretend to be in?
Yeah, I mean, Darth Vader's original in A New Hope. That was with the is it TIE Interceptor?
It's a TIE Advanced.
TIE Advanced with the angled. Yeah, that was like, oh, what would it be like to sit in there? Because you see the TIE fighters, the TIE pilots, and you see Vader surrounded in this cool round cockpit, and all the the controls, and he's doing all the things. Remember, Vader, bless you. Vader's doing all the knobs. Vader, David Prowse is doing all the knobs and flipping all the switches and stuff. That's exactly what I was doing. But, I'm trying to be serious. This is important things that I'm doing, but inside I'm like,
Wasn't the Force Awakens with Poe and Finn the first time we really got the full dual-sided scope?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because we never before, like you said, it was always just what you see.
Yeah.
Now we know that how they sit and back to back and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, that was really cool. That reminds me, I want to go back and watch that part in the Force Awakens. Okay, sorry. Next question.
Right. So, are you familiar with the Darth Jar Jar theory, and where do you stand on it?
Darth Jar Jar theory. That is the theory that all of the Empire sprouted from Jar Jar's
he was really the one pulling the strings the whole time, and he wanted us to believe that he was just completely inept.
Right. Which would be what a Sith a tactic a Sith Lord could use. I mean, it's genius, right? Have you talked to Ahmed Best about this?
Not yet. I hope to at some point. Yeah, I hope to at some point. Yeah.
I think. I know. First of all, I love different points of view. I love hearing, like I have the book, Star Wars from different points of view.
Yep.
And I love hearing ideas and stories because I'm a story
so inventive.
guy. Love stories. And the ones where people put together, like, what was the thing I was watching earlier? Oh, it's where Back to the Future tells the future, I think, predicts the future.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I love when people put seemingly disconnected things together, and then it tells a whole new story. Like that's how stories are written.
Yeah.
You take an ending. I mean, one way to write stories is you take an ending and then you work backward, and they go off onto just different, crazy branches. But if you tell the story this way, now it all ties together at the end. So anyway, to answer your question, Darth Jar Jar, I think, is so entertaining as a storyline that I appreciate that people love Star Wars so much that they put that much.
That was inventive. I don't think that was the case at all. I don't put any credence to it, but at the same time, it was inventive and it was fun. All right, who's the true hero of Star Wars?
I mean, the true hero in Star Wars. The true hero. I can only go with what first comes to my mind because it rings true. It's C-3PO.
Yes, it was told from the droid's perspective. That's how George did it. Yes.
With the red arm?
Okay, now, just a second. I mean, think about it. 3PO, he's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication. R2 can speak 1. Okay, that's impressive, but he can open doors, right? But C-3PO, he is the one who he's gathering the information. I mean, he's the one who said, all systems have been alerted to your presence. The main entrance seems to be the only way in or out. Like, they wouldn't have known that, right?
No.
And he saved everyone in Rise of Skywalker.
Thank you. Exactly. Right. And
that was so cool. The
little mind sweep, but don't worry about that.
I love there was an expanded story for 3PO in that movie. That was one of the things I loved. Yeah.
Right. And that moment, because we've seen the original trilogy, the prequels and everything, and that moment, when he says, "I'm looking at my friends for the last time."
That was deep.
Yeah.
One last time. I mean, wow. That was like all of my fandom flashed before me, to that moment. So yeah, I definitely think 3PO and all the sacrifices he made.
I got goosebumps again from it. It's crazy just us talking about it.
It was almost like a redemption from the second one, The Last Jedi, where he really didn't get much, and then even Mark Hamill said he had to give 3PO a nod at the very end. That was just kind of like, hey, we gotta acknowledge him at least.
Yeah.
Because he did everyone else, but not
it was justice
3PO.
for 3PO.
Yeah.
Think about it. Right. I mean, even from the very first time we saw 3PO, he's willing to sacrifice, himself. He said to Luke, he said, go use, well, gosh, now I can't think of the quote, but he says, save yourself. You can go on without me.
And then Empire, same thing with Empire too.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I love the answer. It was what I would hope it would be. And it was because it was all told from the droid's perspective. That was the whole point of it, which I love. So I think that was a fantastic answer. And always a hard one. Favorite Star Wars movie or series?
Oh, man. This is
What's the one you point to as your favorite?
Okay.
This is breaking news right here.
It's just like picking your favorite child. It can't be done, right? But
especially when some of them are my actual children. I mean,
because you've helped bring these into the world.
Favorite friends, and then I had Star Wars babies, and that's Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. So, not I would say not counting. Because the Mandalorian meant so much to me because I put myself into it, and it was really such a life-changing experience for me. But A New Hope, when I first saw Jawas there with the red eyes and the rocks, was spooky to me. when I saw R2 with his dented, dome on the Tantive, and I mean, and hearing the story that Obi-Wan was telling to Luke about this pupil that had turned to the dark side, and you see, like, I don't know, that totally changed my life. That film. So I can't say any others were my favorite, because that one was the one
that was the game changer,
ignited my imagination as a child to want to know how to make magic. That I had no problem learning the behind the scenes on that, because I was like, oh, people build these, people paint these matte paintings, people film, they make models or whatever.
I remember getting the books as a kid of the making of Star Wars, and it'd be the behind the scenes, the artwork, all that stuff. Like, it was engrossing. You were into it and exploring every bit of it. And who doesn't remember, if you're of that generation that you lived in the 70s and 80s, of when a special would come on that would have George Lucas interviews, behind the scenes stuff.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's everyone was watching that and totally loving what it takes to make that magic happen.
Right, exactly. Like, I think it was 83 or 84, they did the making of Star Wars. And so by then, all three of the original trilogy films had been done. And now you're watching, how they did speeder bikes and how they filmed those.
I remember it very well.
But it was that. I was 13 or 14 when I saw that show. I was like, I want to work for George Lucas someday.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, there was no promise of other Star Wars films or shows.
Nope.
It was just like, I was just like, whatever he's doing, I want to work with him.
I want in.
That guided my whole life.
And look where you are now. I love it. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you joining us. This has been such an enjoyable experience. Appreciate the time. We went way long again, so thank you for hanging with us. We wish you well in your family in the new year. We look forward to seeing you on screen again, which we know is coming. You didn't say it exactly, but you know there's more to look forward to, so you were good about it. NDA is protected. You're all good there. We hope to have you on again in the future, and really appreciate your time, Chris. Just wish you well.
Yeah. This has been so great. And thank you, Matt, for inviting me. I really appreciate you guys. And we have a really exciting future coming. So happy New Year.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.